Well, good morning. How are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I was just watching. I'm going to talk about prison cities, and they're coming. They're building them right in front of right under our noses, and most people don't see it. They call them 15-minute cities, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. I just watched a very interesting video over on Infowars. Alex Jones was interviewing Catherine Austin Fitz. Many of you are probably familiar with her. She's a smart person, and she was talking about something that's referred to as the Omni War, and I'm going to talk about that on another one. But I think that's exactly what's going on, and we'll get to that maybe next time, maybe in a couple of videos, but today I want to talk about prison cities. And I know a lot of people, these things, by the way, if you're new to us, we are a channel for thinking people, for PMPs, preparedness minded people, as opposed to, I don't like the term prepper. It denotes a person who's stacking rice and beans and many of the lower level, to be real honest, I don't mean to insult anybody, but stockpiling stuff like that is very low level preparedness, uh, and that's not what we do here. I'm not going to tell you how many beans to get. I'm not going to tell you how much ammo you need. That consumes the attention of the minimally prepared and minimally interested, and that's not what we're here for. This is about an omnidimensional, omnidirectional approach to preparedness, trying to be prepared for everything. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. If you go to any city, you will see, and suburbs mainly, but cities, because many of the cities are going through processes of what they call regentrification. Okay, they're taking out the slums, they're putting in fancy lofts and high rises, and they're attracting all the young people. The suburbs are the same way. Where I live here, there are apartments exploding everywhere, and they're not shabby apartments. These are nice apartments. The rent on these apartments is the same as a house payment for a nice house. I mean, a nice house. They have all the amenities. They are little cities within themselves. They have granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. They have, top of the line trim. These are the places that young people, young professionals, number one, and then young people who want to act like they're young professionals want to go. And they are attracting them. And the problem with that, of course, is, and I understand it entirely, because I felt the same way. When I turned 21, I left the house then because I wanted to cross into Kansas City to go to the police academy. I didn't want to live in the suburbs. They were boring. I certainly didn't want to live in a small town, right? I didn't want to live out in the country, and younger people don't want to. Younger people want the bright lights, the crowds, other people like them, excitement. They want to be able to go out into the clubs, and this is how they are. This is why they are attracted to the cities and the suburbs, which are becoming little cities of their own. Back when I was on, you had to go downtown. You had to go down to the city, not necessarily downtown, but you had to go to the city to get to the nightclubs, the hot spots. Now, pretty much every suburb has a city center or whatever that people go to. Where I live, for instance, and let me put it this way: the concept of what they are calling the 15-minute city is not new. However, it's going to become a prison city, and I'm going to get to that and explain that. There have always been communities, right? I mean, you go to any city, and people who aren't familiar with cities tend to think of a city as one big conglomerate mess, right? Well, it's not. It's a collection of a lot of different communities. You go throughout a city. every area of the city will have its own little shopping district, its own grocery store, its own drugstore, its own barbershop, its own pretty much everything, or a couple of restaurants, everything in the world. Most people never did have to go more than 15 minutes from where they live to get pretty much anything they wanted, right? I mean, when I was growing up in a suburb, we rarely went any anywhere farther than where we could have walked 15 minutes because everything that we needed was right there. If we went farther than that, it was to go visit somebody, right? Same thing now, but with the added danger, you know, wrapped in the enticing package of convenience of digitalization. I wonder which one of those is correct. Doesn't matter, you know what I mean. Uh, that's how they will control. Okay, so getting back to what we're putting together, for those of you who may not realize this, uh, these apartment complexes that they're building all over the place are very nice. Okay, and they attract the younger people, and that's what they're going for, the next generation. Because if you want to change the world, you change it with the generation that's coming. You don't try to change the old dogs, right? Because we can't be changed. We love what we had, and we don't want it. Well, uh, we don't want to change, and sometimes to our detriment. Uh, so this is how they're attracting the younger people to the what would essentially be a 15-minute city, a community within a larger city, while the small towns are dying, and the small towns are dying. They're dying all over the country. When kids, it's the rare kid who grows up in a small town who wants to stay there. Now, is that good or bad? Probably in many ways it's bad. I get it. I think probably our country would have been better if it had stayed in the agrarian model that Thomas Jefferson and some of the other founders envisioned it. But that's simply not the way that society goes. Society becomes more complex. It grows, right? It develops. And with every generation, new opportunities come along that attract the people in that generation. So when a kid grows up on a farm or small town or whatever, uh, if they go away to college, ask yourself how many times do they come back? Rarely, if ever. Okay, even if they don't go to college, the younger people, where are they going to go? They want to go where there's other younger people, and that's not the small town. That's too bad. Maybe I'll say something in a minute about how I think the small towns might be able to respond to this and better themselves, because I think it might be better. Okay, so let's get back to the prison city essentially. So if as we go down the road of digital money, and we're seeing, at one point everybody was afraid of CBDC, and you should have been. Now we're getting into others, Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP and Doge and all that. We're getting into crypto. And is there any stopping it? I doubt it. I doubt it. There are some who say, well, this isn't going to work. It's not real money. Well, neither's real money is whatever somebody will exchange a good or a service for. Simply as that, and plenty of people are going to do it. So yeah, it is real money. It may not be the paper currency or the gold coin. It may not be fiat currency. It may not be the gold coin that you're not going to get anybody to take that for anything anyway. Go down and take your gold coin, try to buy a haircut with it. But it is money because people will accept it in exchange for a good or a service. Okay, so as this digitalization of our money increases, is going to get to the point to where more and more people are using it. I talked to you the other day about apps. Apps are beyond me, but look how many younger people, Apple Pay, this and this and that. They're used to a digital world. This is where it's going to come to. So, of course, the danger is that, and the thing that people warn about is, well, they want us all into a 15-minute city, or what I would call a prison city, a slave city. And they're going to be able to control you, your travel, your job, your everything through this central digital exchange. Now, it's going to be a lot more complicated with a Bitcoin or something like that because that's decentralized. But if they push for, and Trump has said something about wanting a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Well, if they do that, now you have the government getting into it, and doesn't the government want to control how that goes? We will see. Okay, we will see. But anything that's digital can be controlled by the person who's controlling the digital, right? So, of course, the whole concept of a prison city or a 15-minute city is that you will live there. You will need to remain within your city. You won't be able to go outside your city without special permission. And then through your social credit score, you will be controlled as to how you can spend that. If it turns out you're, a few pounds overweight, no, your digital card is not going to buy you ice cream, right? So it's going to be very, very easy. And the thing to realize is that people are going to go into these 15-minute cities, these prison cities, willingly. They're not going to have to be forced into, because they will be the very best places in most people's opinion. I don't necessarily agree with this, so I'm not saying that. I'm talking reality, not what I think might be best. In most people's opinion, will be the very best place to live. The country, the small town, would be the place where they go to visit grandma. And they will be happy. You know this stuff? Klaus Schwab, you will own nothing and you will be happy. That's happening. Okay? They live in a beautiful apartment that downstairs has a full fitness center, has laundry, has probably a coffee shop, a couple little shops, everything in it. A little city of its own. Right? More and more of them are not leaving to go to an office to work. They're working on their laptop or on their phone. Our entire society, our entire culture is, and I'm going to get to how we address this in a minute, how we hopefully fight against it. Our whole culture is changing. Our whole economy is changing. Our whole society is changing. Expectations are changing. Okay. So the young person who, and there's more and more of them, moving into a fancy apartment, have everything they want. Their favorite coffee shop is downstairs. When they get up in the morning, they drink their coffee from their espresso machine in their kitchen, and they tap, 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 tap on their laptop. That's their work. Their favorite restaurant is down the block. They will meet their friends there for lunch, and who also are making their living at home, tap, 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 tap. And then that afternoon, maybe they'll go over, or that evening, go over and have dinner in another place and play some pickleball. Okay. It is a wonderful life for a young person. It is a wonderful life for a young person. I think this is where a lot of people just, especially in the prepper world, because the preppers tend to be, older, right? Preppers tend to be much more conservative. Preppers tend to want to hold on to the old ways. Preppers, like most older people, think that anything new is, I don't want to put everybody in the same box there, but, we are hesitant about adopting new things because they don't make sense to us, because it doesn't fall in line with the way that we have decided is the right way to go, right? And I think that's true. But what I'm saying here is that the prison cities, the 15-minute cities, will be cities that are built with the full acquiescence of its inhabitants. Okay? Now, how can they get more people into the city? Well, they're probably not going to have to, because the attraction of cities, it's always been attractive. People have always gone to the cities. Okay. And I know that doesn't make a sense to people who prefer to live more rurally in small town. And I fully understand that. There will be a time that we no longer live as close into the suburbs as we do now. we will be relocating, strategically relocating, but not for a few years, and there are reasons for that. So if you live outside of the city, how do they control you, right? Well, they can do a number of things. They can increase your taxes. They can increase your taxes for use of the roads to get into the city. They can increase the cost of your fuel. Already, people who live rurally spend more money on fuel because they have to drive farther to get whatever they want, whether it's to come into the city or whether it's just to go to town, okay, to get what they want. They're already spending a lot more on fuel. That's why you hear a lot of people who are complaining the most about the cost of fuel being, well, not just truck drivers, but they can write that off. But people who live in small towns or more rurally, it doesn't hit the city dweller. It's like the old thing back in New York. How many people live their whole lives in New York never driving? Yeah, I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's not a good thing. I would hate it. But see, fuel prices don't affect them in a way that they can see. Now, it would affect them in the cost of their goods and services, because a tomato is going to cost more in Manhattan because it costs more to drive it there in a truck, right? But they don't see that. They see that in food taxes. They don't see it in fuel taxes. And so they can increase, the cost of that. You already pay more by driving back and forth. They can increase the taxes on your fuel outside the 15-minute city areas. They could already, the areas are dying. You go to a small town. Every place I go, when I talk to the younger people, hey, what? Because I do ask, what do you think about what's going on in your town? And they don't like it. They hate it. The ones that are staying there is because they've already got married. They got a couple of kids. Where are they going to go? Yeah, they can't afford to go to the city because the pay, to be real honest, in small towns, the pay sucks. The pay is horrible. Okay. Many people in rurally or in small towns are receiving government benefits for that very reason. But they can say, but the younger people who see this, who aren't married, don't have kids, see the city, they say, wow, you mean I can go to the city and I can make buku bucks? And of course, the ones who have gone to college have already done that. But the ones who haven't gone to college, they'll say, well, my friend up there, they're in the city. They're making $80,000 a year. They're 2 years out of college. They're making $80,000 a year. 65 grand if they're a teacher, but 80 grand if they're in the private sector. And here I am living in my town and I'm making 25. I mean, that sucks. Now, a lot of them, if they're married with kids, they're not going to move to the city, but most are. So that's how they're getting everybody into the 15-minute cities. And to be honest, as I say back again, when I was a kid, it was about communities. We would walk to our shopping center. We walked to our grocery store. We walked to our drugstore. We walked to the candy store. We walked to the shoe store. We walked everywhere. Everybody liked it. Nobody wanted to be a part of this big conglomerate city, this impersonal city, until they got to be, in late teens or early 20s, and they wanted to go out for the nightlife. And right where I live right now, we wouldn't have to walk more than 15 minutes for pretty much anything from where we live, including our doctors, our dentists, our hospital. And yet, if you were in our neighborhood, you wouldn't know you were in the middle of a city, because it's a nice little community. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that it's the attractiveness of these communities. People again, when they think of community, too often in their preppers world, they think small town, right? No. Cities are made up of communities. People like their communities. And they like the diversity of, and by that I don't mean racial or anything like that. What I mean, choices, options. I can walk 10 minutes to the south and have my choice of 15, probably more than that, 20 restaurants. I don't see them from my house. It seems to me if I walk out my front door, I look like I live in a little oasis, you know. But I can go down there, and then if I need to stop by the grocery store on the way, it's 3-minute walk for whatever restaurant I decided to go to. What you get my drift here, right? So they are going to be pulling people in more and more into the cities. How can you combat that? I'll give you an example. You've heard how Walmart destroyed the small towns. I used to believe that until I lived in a small town. And I lived in a small town. When I moved there, I owned a gym in a college town. So the town was, at the time, I think 12,000, somewhere between 12 and 20, I don't know. Small town. Little main street and, the courthouse and everything like that. I thought it was going to be neat. First off, I thought, wow, this is going to be cool living in a small town. Everybody's friendly, everybody knows each other, all this. Well, I learned better on that. No, they're not all friendly. Matter of fact, a lot of them are just damned unfriendly. I'll be honest, I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but I found people in the city much friendlier. Okay, my experience. And so when I first moved there was a Walmart in town, and I owned a gym. It was on one of the main streets, and occasionally I would have to. I'd walk up to the hardware store the next block up. Right. I really enjoyed, because it was a new experience for me. I enjoyed getting into the small town feel. It was like living in a Norman Rockwell painting. And I walked up to the hardware store, and I needed, if I needed a couple of keys made, and I'd go into the hardware store, I'd walk in, the doorbell would ring. It was an old building, town square, and nobody would be there, and I'd wait for a minute, and in a minute, some old guy would come trudging up, wiping his hand on a rag, and look at me and go, "What?" And I'm thinking, "What? What do you need?" I go, "Wow, that's not the small town friendliness I expected," right? And so I said, "Well, I need a couple of keys." And so he wouldn't even say anything. Look, let me see it. And then he'd go wander off. How many do you need? 3. And then in a few minutes, he'd come back, hand me the keys, and tell me how much it was. I said, "Good Lord, man, what, did I kick his dog or something?" And I found that there were he wasn't the only one. See? And then they built a super Walmart. And I heard all the grumblings from the small business owners. That's going to put us out of business, Well, they built it up north on the north edge of town. And whenever I would go in there, the people at the front door looked at me and smiled and welcomed me and said, "Hello, how are you today?" I never got that. Now, if you think I'm ragging on small towns, that's not my purpose, because I'm going to tell you how to fix it in a minute, okay? If you really want to address the prison system, situation, let me see what I'm doing on time here. Got to bring this to a close, I think. Yeah, better. I'll tell you how to do it. And I'd go back and get a couple of keys made, and they'd say, "Oh, okay, yeah, you bet. Just a second, I'll get it right away." Okay, well, smiling, helping me, right? And then wherever I went, people in a little blue vest were asking me, "You got everything? Can I help you, sir?" No. And when I left, people would smile, "Have a good day." The people at the door, "Have a good day." Good grief. It was a lot different, right? Excuse me just a second. Grocery store was the same thing. I went to the local grocery store. People weren't all that friendly. But so what? I'm not paying them to be my friends. I didn't think anything about it. But when I went up to the Walmart again, everybody was friendly. The stuff was cheaper and it was friendly. You see, my point is this. Walmart didn't kill the small towns. Small towns killed the small towns. They could have saved themselves, and they could have built themselves better. How could they do that? Simple. The guy at the hardware store could have smiled at me and been nice and showed me that he appreciated my business and went and made my key and said thank you and all that. That's all he had to do. I would have much rather walked a block than get in my car, drive all the way up to the north part of town, park, walk in Walmart, go back, walk all the way back, get my keys. But you know what? It was just such a much more enjoyable experience that guy in the hardware store never got any more of my business once a Walmart opened up. And it wasn't Walmart's fault. It was his fault. The same thing with their grocery store. And I said at the time, and of course they were bellyaching. They had meetings in town about Walmart, and the grocery store guy is going to put us out of business. And I said, well, they could fight this by simply giving better service. Why don't they put together a delivery? Why don't they put together a deal that says, we'll deliver your groceries. Call in your order, we'll deliver them to. Well, you can't do that. You can't do that. I'd never go. Couldn't afford that. What are they doing now? Look at all these places delivering groceries. Why? Because it's competition. Competition. When you get competition, you get better service and, for the most part, higher quality, goods. Or either cheaper or better quality. That's what the cities give, and that's what's attracting people to these cities, which will become 15-minute cities, which will become prison cities. The inmates will come in themselves. And there will be, I don't have time to explain it, but there will be ways, well, what if you decide to move? That's not going to be a problem. It's just going to be like transferring from one federal prison to another. Okay, well, you're registered over here now, and now you're registered in, you went from Kansas City to Omaha. Okay, now you're registered here, and everything, we keep all your records right here. Same thing. There's not going to be any problem. Here's how to solve it. And I haven't even told you about, by the way, if you want my books, I'll tell you in a second if I have time. Here's how to solve it. Make small towns and rural life more attractive. And that goes against the grain because just a lot of people, and I'm just being honest here, but I'm trying to help. A lot of people in the country, they're not accepting of them city folks. Hell, I hear it on here. It's just berating somebody because they live in a city. And there's a lot of prejudice, to be honest, out there. And people don't want it. They're not going to do it. They would rather stay amongst other inmates, right? Who don't put them down. Simple as that. So if you want to go, first off, I would suggest that you make money so that you can move wherever you want to. If you can't, you are in prison wherever you live because you can't leave. You've already imprisoned yourself. But that was the whole point on this. We put ourselves in our own prisons of our own choosing. Okay? And then decide how to fully address this. It's good. You have more opportunities, better money, better services in suburbs and cities. You have a little more freedom out in the country. You want to be able to move between the two. You want to be able to go from your place in the suburbs or the city to your place in the country. Does that make sense? It can be done. I don't have time to tell you. People will say, you didn't tell me how to do it. Well, let me tell you this. Use your mind. You got a brain? Use it. Okay? Use it. All right. If I have enough time to tell you, you can order my books again directly from me through our website, stonemont.us. You've always been able to get them through Amazon, but now you can get them again from me, the Stonemont series. Links down below. They say it's the best. Lee over at Cold War Prepper kind of reviewed these last night. Did a good job. Thanks, Lee. They say it's the best prepper preparedness, SHTF, how to prepare for, how to survive, and how to rebuild after a total collapse of everything series that a lot of people said that they've ever read. You'll learn something on every page, and you will love the story. And you can get them directly from me, signed through stonemont.us, links down below. And the new set, I don't know if I have time to show you this or not before the camera shuts off at its time. The new set of the Trump inaugural mugs. Maybe I should put on my glasses here, but I don't think I have time. Through our website also. There are 4 different mugs with 4 quotes from Trump from his inaugural speech, and they are beautiful. You can get them individually. You can get them in sets of 4, either assorted or for the same one. Those you can also get through our website, stonemont.us. And I said that the very first one who ordered, and the first time I announced it, I haven't announced them for the last couple of days, I don't think, because we were already inundated with orders. First one who got their order in was Barbara. I won't tell you your last name, Barbara, because that's your private business, but congratulations to Barbara. Just in case I have time to read them off here, his quotes are, "From this moment, America's decline is over." This one says, "I was saved by God to make America great again." That's not sacrilegious. Many people have said that. This one says, "In America, the impossible is what we do best." And this one says, what does it say? "The golden age of America begins right now." So if you want your set, jump on stonemont.us and get them now. So think about what I said. Remember, we put ourselves in the prisons we want to be, and you have to decide whether you want to be in or not, and how to do it, how to go about it. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and plan for how you want to live, and then work that plan. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.